All right, today we'll resume learning of web development. You should already know basics of HTML and JavaScript from our previous lessons. And there are many other functions that you can use. Instead of learning them all, we'll look at specific functions that we need for our project. When you'll be working on your own project, you can do it in the same way. Today, we're going to create a page based on the Star Wars theme, and we'll work on it for the next several sessions. So here, right now, I'm going to paste a code of an empty HTML page. So here, this tag specifies that our document is an HTML document. The paired HTML tags define a block of HTML code. The paired head tags define a block of settings. And so far in the head tag, we just have this tag, which sets the char set to UTF-8 as usual. And here we have a paired body tag, which defines a block of content, which is empty for now. And if we open this, we just get a blank HTML page, and its title is its file path, and no icon and nothing on it. So now let's add a title to this page. And to add a title, in the head tag, we're going to add a title tag. And here we're just going to set the title to Star Wars theme. Now when we refresh it, you see the title changed to Star Wars theme. And now next, let's add an icon. And for that, I found a good image for an icon, which fits our theme, this image. And now, here we have the image link, so we can copy that. And then we're going to add a new tag to our HTML code. Here in the head tag, we're just going to add a shortcut icon. And this is the link that we just copied to the image. Now, when we refresh our page, you should see a Yoda icon. Now, let's add some stars. And now there's two ways to do that. We can start adding images for stars, so a separate image for each separate star. Or we can draw them using JavaScript. Let's try to draw the stars, because if we use a separate image for each separate stars, once we start adding like 500 stars, then our web page is going to be really slow at loading. Now, in JavaScript, in HTML, to draw stuff, we need to add a canvas element. So canvas is a paired tag. Now, and here we just set its ID to canvas as well. Now, if we refresh our page, we don't see any changes, but the element was actually added to the page, and we can see it here. Also, canvas here is a paired tag, but if we write something inside of this, let's say hello or something, then it won't be displayed inside of the actual canvas. And so it is general practice to just write unsupported in here, because right now, if we view it, we just see the canvas. But but older versions of browsers do not support the canvas element. So if we open the same page in an older browser, which is not supported, then we'll see the message unsupported in the place where the canvas was supposed to be. Now, let's try to draw our first star. And we will do that using JavaScript. So we'll add our paired script tags to write JavaScript code inside. So first of all, we need to get a canvas object from DOM. And as we discussed previously, we can do it using this document.get element by ID method. So here we create a new variable called CNV short for canvas, and we set it to the object which represents our canvas element. Well, the element with this ID, which is our canvas here. Note that this here refers to the ID, not the name of the tag itself. Now, next, we need to get the drawing context of the canvas using the getContext function. And so here we create a new variable called CTX, and we set it to an object that we get from cnv.getContext2d. And so this CTX, think of it as a paintbrush. And so it's like doing this is like asking our browser, okay, could you please give us a paintbrush to draw on this canvas? And then here we get the paintbrush, and using this object that we got, we can draw various graphics on the canvas. This parameter here, it's pretty much like the type of graphics that we're going to be drawing. We're going to be drawing 2D graphics. So we just have 2D as the input parameter here. And you can think of it as, let's say, the type of paintbrush or marker or pen or whatever. And now, first, we need to add a command to start recording a path. So we do ctx.beginPath, and that's pretty much like resetting our paintbrush and getting ready to draw the next shape. Next, we'll call the ctx.arc function to draw an arc. So in here, the first parameter is the x-coordinate of the arc center. So we'll set it to 100 pixels. 75 is the vertical coordinate or the y-coordinate of the arc center. So we set it to 75. This 50 will be the radius of the arc. So it will be 50 pixels. And then this is the start angle of the arc. And this angle is measured in radians, and it's measured from the positive x-axis. And we'll set it to 0. And then this is the end angle. So the angle at which the arc ends in radians, measured from the positive x-axis. So you may be wondering why we have 2 times math.pi here. And that is because this is in radians. Radians are another unit of measuring angles. And in radians, 2 times math.pi radians is equal to 360 degrees. So pi is a special number in math, and it's equal to roughly 3.14. And you're going to learn more about radians in high school. But for now, just remember that 2 times math.pi radians is equal to 360 degrees. And we set this to 360 degrees because we're going to be drawing a full circle. Now, if we save the program as is and refresh it, nothing has changed on the screen. And that is because we pretty much plotted out the path that the paintbrush has to take. But now we actually have to call the function ctx.stroke to actually move the paintbrush along this path. And now, if we refresh it, we get a black circle. Now, it may be a good idea to change the background color because we usually see stars on a black sky. And to do that, we'll add a style attribute to the body. And we're going to set the background color to black. And now when we refresh it, our background color became black, but our arc disappeared. Does anyone have any idea what happened to it? No? Oh well. Well, in fact, the arc does exist. So if we hover over the arc in here, sorry, the canvas in here, you'll see the image, and we can actually see the black arc in the image. But there's nothing on here, and that's because the arc is black, and we're drawing a black arc on a black background, so we're not going to see it. And now, in order for us, now we need to change the color of the arc so we can see it in the background. And to do that, we're going to do ctx.stroke style and set it to white. So we pretty much set the color that it's going to be stroking with to white. And now we can see a white arc. Now we need to fill this circle with white color as well, because we're drawing stars, not solar eclipses. And to do that, similar idea, except we do, well, first we'll do ctx.fill style is white, and then in here we do ctx.fill. And this fill function will actually fill this circle. And actually, we don't even need to draw the border, so we can get rid of this and this. And if we refresh, nothing has changed. And it works if we just fill. Now, let's create a bunch of small stars. And we'll use a similar idea to this, but instead of repeating the same code 500 times, we're going to add a for loop. So this for loop repeats 500 times. So I is equal to 0, and then while I is less than 500, this loop repeats, and every iteration I is incremented. So it'll run exactly 500 times. Now, every iteration, we do ctx.beginPath to reset our paintbrush. And then here, this line of code will draw a random star on the screen. And the way it works is, here, we set the x coordinate to a random point between 0 and the edge of a canvas. And then here, same idea. This line of code sets the y coordinate to a random y position between 0 and the edge of the canvas. This here is a bit of a different idea. Here we pretty much set the minimum size of a star to 0.3 pixels. And through experiments, I found that this is the smallest a star can be and still be visible on the canvas. And then here we add a random number from 0 to 1. So the maximum size for a star can be 1.3, which is a pretty decent sized star. And here, this portion stayed the same because we're drawing circles. And then here, we fill the actual star. Now, if we refresh this in our canvas, we get 500 stars. Now, you may be wondering, why do we have to do ctx.beginPath every time? And actually, I'll comment it out so that the program ignores this line and does not call this function. And now, when I refresh the page, it turns into this big mess. And what actually happened here is, because we never called the ctx.beginPath function, we never actually lift off our paintbrush. So the program puts it down to draw a circle, and then it starts dragging it around all over the screen and filling all of these pieces 500 times. And so we get something like this. But now if we actually enable this line again, then the paintbrush actually lifts off for every individual star, and we get 500 stars. Now, our canvas right now is only in this small box. And let's try to expand the sky from the default values to the full width and the full height of the screen. And in order to do that, we need to increase the size of the canvas to fully fit the size of the body. And then we also need to increase the size of the body to fit the full size of HTML, and then increase the size of HTML to fit the full size of the window. And first off, let's set the height property of body to 100%, because if you look here, our body stretches for the full width, but not for a full height. And now if we refresh our web page, the body actually doesn't stretch to a full height. Well, it stretches to the full height of its parent element, but we need to set the height of the HTML element as well. So now in our HTML element, let's add a style property, a style attribute, and set the height property to 100%. And now our HTML and our body fits the full screen, but actually it's a bit too big and we get a scroll bar. So let's reduce it to 95%. And now once we do that, we get a pretty acceptable size for our body. And now let's try to expand the canvas in the same way. So here in canvas, we'll add a style property and set width and height to 100% to stretch it to a full width and height. And it was expanded, but not in the way that we want. So it seems that it did not update its width and height properties automatically. And we can fix it by setting them in the JavaScript code. So in here, we're going to set the width and height properties of canvas to the width and the height of body. And now if we refresh, our stars, everything is normal sized, nothing is expanded, and our stars cover the entire screen, which is what we wanted. However, if we try to resize the page, our stars get shrinked and they become ovals, and we obviously don't want that. So I think it's better to have the size of the canvas fixed, so that when we do this and minimize the screen, we just get 2 scroll bars so that we can scroll through our sky without actually minimizing it. And in order to do that, we actually need to set the height and width properties to the width and the height of the body. But in CSS, we don't have any way to get this width and height of the body. So we're going to actually set these properties through JavaScript. So do cnv.style.width, and we set it to the width, and then we add px at the end. And we do similar thing with height. And here we don't actually need this anymore because we set it in JavaScript code. And if we refresh it, when we minimize the window, we can now scroll through our sky, like so, without reducing the quality. And now the last thing for today is we'll remove our first circle that we use for testing, and we'll add a Death Star to the page. Now, it may be too complicated to draw the Death Star, so we'll use an image for that. Now, I found a pretty good image at this link, and this image has a transparent background, which means that once we put it on top of here, we will not get a white square all around it. Here, I'm going to copy the image link. And then in our code, we're going to add an Img tag to our HTML. This Img tag is, as the name suggests, a tag for images, where we display images. And the src attribute is a link to the image, which is the link that I copied just now. And now, if we save and refresh, the Death Star was added, but it was added way at the bottom. And this happened because all the elements on the web page appear in the same order that they're added in the HTML code. So first the canvas is added, and then the image was added right below. Now, in order to place it on top of the canvas, we need to change its position to absolute, and then change the left and top properties to put it on top of the canvas. Normally in programming, we measure and set position from the left top corner, although HTML allows you to set the position from any of the 4 corners, but we'll follow standard practice and use the top and left properties. So here in our image, we're going to add a style attribute. And in here, we're going to set position to absolute left to 100 pixels and top to 100 pixels. And actually, before I save and refresh, let's remove our first circle that we made because we don't need it anymore. Now, when we refresh, the Death Star is displayed on top of the canvas, but it is too big. And we need to slightly reduce the width and height. And in style, let's set it to 40%, like so. Note that when you're resizing images, you'll only need to change one of the width or height properties, and the image will scale proportionally. But if you change both and they're out of proportion, then your image will stretch out in a way that you don't want it to. And now our Death Star is a lot smaller now. But now we need to put it in the middle of a page. And let's try doing that by setting the left and top to 50%. Now, when we refresh the page, the Death Star is not in the middle. And that's because the top and left properties using the top and left properties, we set the position of the top left corner, which, as you see here, is actually in the middle. And we need to account for the image size. The top position is pretty easy to calculate because the height is 40% of the window height. And so then 100% divided by 2 minus 40% divided by 2 will give us 30%. In here. And our left position, let's set it to roughly 40%. Now, when we refresh our page, we get a Death Star that is nice and centered in here. And now we have a pretty good view of the night of space or a night sky and a Death Star in the middle of it. Are there any questions? Okay, well, that's all that I want to explain for today. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next Sunday.